Hey everyone, this is Fighting Game Radio episode 4, and I am glad to have a very special guest with me today. It's the man, the attorney, Mr. Ultradavid, and if you haven't recognized his name, he has been doing commentary and castings for the fighting game community and all of the events, and the most recent one being the biggest, called Evolution 2011. Glad to have you, man. How you doing?
I'm doing great, thanks.
Um, Last weekend at EVO, there was an average of about 30,000 to 90,000 viewers constantly watching every game. None of
That's
us.
pretty crazy.
Yeah, I know. Honestly, every year it grows and grows, but a lot of us have never been there. We're always watching it from the stream, and the only real experience we can actually get is basically, we watch the tournament feeds, and then we watch kind of reviews or we read posts about things that happen after the event. You specifically being there and you being actually a chance as being one of the main commentators, what was it like?
Well, I definitely had an unusual experience in that I was pretty much sequestered in the commentator's booth for, 25 hours out of those 2 days. So I didn't get to do much or see much. I mean, after the fact, I've heard all these stories of what people did and who was there, and I didn't even see that they were there. So
Yeah.
I definitely have a weird perspective on it, but it was awesome. The place was gigantic. There were more people there than I've ever seen for any kind of fighting game event.
Yeah, I keep hearing that like this was the biggest one and the best one yet is
It was definitely the best one that I've been to. Yeah.
the
Um,
Rio Hotel in Las Vegas. Is that correct?
well, okay. Yeah, it was at the Rio. As far as the actual hotel, I prefer Caesars, which was last year. I don't know. I don't get into the why they pick a certain hotel or not. I have no idea, but
Oh,
yeah. I
okay,
mean,
okay.
the Rio's nice. I kind of prefer the Caesars, but as far as the actual event goes, this was definitely the best one. It was the biggest one. Tons of awesome action if you were watching the
Yeah.
stream.
Oh
You
yeah,
got to
yeah.
see.
I was checking on the stream. Well, whenever I had the actual chance to, and you know what I also love is that company like Capcom, Seth Killian, or the Marvel's Capcom 3, the producer of the game. When company owners and producers go there at the same time, it makes the event that much more reputable. And hearing on the stream, Seth Killian, every time someone would like say like in the middle of a game, someone would beat someone or anything like that. He said like energy blasts were happening when everybody would roar every time someone lost really poorly or came back really strong. And he's like, there's so much energy there that always keeps growing and growing and growing, and it keeps shocking everyone.
Yeah, the crowd was awesome.
Yeah,
Crowds are always awesome at fighting game events. That's one of the cool things about our scene is how crazy the crowd goes, how hyped we all get.
yeah,
But yeah, it was particularly true this time, especially in our arcade edition finals when when Bunko beat Daigo four straight and perfected in the last
yeah,
time, or when Latif beat Daigo, or there were these moments that everybody went nuts, including me. At that point, actually, I was done commentating. It was James Chen and Seth Killian for Street Fighter 4 finals. So
hmm,
um, I was screaming as much as anybody else, and I lost my voice way worse during that hour or two of time than I did for the previous 25 hours of actual commentary. Because
yeah,
it was just so hype, I couldn't resist.
yeah. Because you watch all the post interviews that happen just after the games, you could hear everyone's voice being all so stressed because they were yelling
Oh
for
yeah,
like the past hour straight.
oh yeah.
Um, Your opinion, what was your favorite Evo moment? Because everyone's saying how the level 3 Tron, which everyone who doesn't know, just to give you a quick background, basically in Marvel vs. Capcom 3, the grand finals, basically the character that had the worst chance of coming back, came back in the most shocking way possible, and everybody kind of went crazy. But in your opinion, what was your favorite moment that happened at Evo?
Well, as far as game action goes, I guess I would have to pick that one. It was really crazy. It was it was sort of a mistake on Viscant's part to get hit by that, and,
Yeah.
and I've heard him. He actually had this awesome thing on YouTube that the Box Arena did, like kind of interviewing him about the grand finals, like his take on things as they were happening, and it was
Yes,
really cool to
yes.
listen to. And he talked about it, and he said, you know what, that happened because I made mistakes. Like I shouldn't have been in that situation in the first place. I should not have even been there. So that kind of tempers how much I like it because I prefer things that are like awesome on both players' sides, and one player just does something even better.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's right.
so I guess like with that in mind, I'm gonna have to go with Latif eliminating Daigo in AE.
Oh man, I was actually watching that, and I'm thinking in my head, Japanese players are accustomed to sticking with their character all the way through.
Yeah.
And so many people were getting hit by Crimson Viper's burn kick, which anybody who just wants to get a quick understanding of that, basically she spins around and she's kicking, but the hitbox isn't as big, but her animation, she's basically spinning a flame in a circle, and it's ambiguous as to what side you're going to get hit on.
Yep.
And he kept getting hit left and right in so many times in a row, and he stunned everybody, but actually taking him. That was another great moment as well.
Yeah, that was crazy. That was the moment that I was most hyped for. Like, that was definitely the time during the weekend that I was going craziest. So.
Yeah, the broken tier individual. Actually, just there was also he even landed. I remember when Viscant landed the pile driver, and like you meant, I remember when you mentioned, you're like, we rarely see that ever.
Oh yeah, with Hagar.
Yeah. Hagar's power bomb. You'd never see that. And it happened. And also when Wolverine caught Phoenix in level 3 as well.
That's right. Yeah.
It happened multiple times, and it's really exciting to see. Moving on to something that's still related to Evil, but that I was hoping everybody would kind of pay attention to it, is because Wednesday Night Fights is, correct me if I'm wrong at any point, is SoCal. A weekly event that major players go to, and as just a community event. And in the top 32 of Evolution Finals, which is the World Finals, out of how many? Do you know the exact number of how many entrants were in Marvel vs. Capcom 3?
You mean in the whole tournament?
Yeah.
I don't know the exact number, but I know it's something like 14 or 1,500 people.
Okay. And the fact that in the top 32, 11 people, I have personally recognized their names by watching them one or multiple times at Wednesday Night Fights in this local event.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Because there's Fnatic, Tatsu, Viscant, Justin Wong, Combo Fiend, Clockwork, Richard Wen, Andy OCR, Flo, Killer Kai, and Martin.
Yeah, okay.
And it's not a coincidence.
Well, it's not a coincidence. I don't know if Wednesday Night Fights exactly is the reason. The LA area and the San Diego area just tend to be really, really strong in Marvel. They were two of the strongest spots in Marvel 2 as well.
Yeah, it's more of a history thing.
And all those guys are in LA or in San Diego. Like, Viscant tends to play in San Diego with Box Arena, but yeah, he did come up to Wednesday Night Fights a few times.
Yeah, that's right. And
that's a cool point. Like, maybe it speaks to how important it is for people to have their own, like, kind of weekly or frequent gathering with their own scene, because for sure it helps to have people traveling from all over to come see stuff. I remember when Viscant and Genghis also from San Diego first came to Wednesday Night Fights.
Mm-hmm.
We in LA were kind of skeptical that San Diego was good at this game, to be honest.
Yeah, okay.
We were kind of expecting to just kind of walk over them, and then they came and got like first and second place, and then the next week came again and won it again. So
and then again and again it happened.
Yeah. So they brought technology that we really hadn't seen. Like, we hadn't seen somebody play Wesker like Viscant was playing him with the mix-ups in the corner, and I know players like Deus Ex has a sick Doom, and I know that he and Clockwork have had conversations about Doom and have trained a little bit together. So it definitely helps that we have these two strong scenes. LA and San Diego that are a couple hours apart, and for sure it helped to bring them all together and have this huge event.
Yeah, because in the end of it, when we all go on a global event, we're all on the same side. I'm in Canada, and obviously no matter who plays who in Canada, once everyone trades their own resources and their own technology with each other, that's how you grow, right? And I don't know the size of the weekly night fight, the attendance, the average. Is it like around 20, 30 guys?
Well, no. As far as the actual entrance to the tournament goes, I think there's like 50 people, 60 people who come, something like that regularly. Yeah. That's
a high average number. And I mean, when everyone trades and everyone, basically what happens is when you playing online is a good thing, but when you play offline, when you communicate with someone, you're not surprised when you play certain matchups. You get used to the tough things. When everyone plays their players, their characters exceptionally well. When you go to an event, you're like, well, I've already dealt with someone who I think is like the best, and your confidence level is extremely high, and you adapt. because it's the ones who adapt that win. The strongest players, they do good, but the ones that adapt to situations are the ones that turn it out in the end.
Yeah, and it's definitely all about having, the ability to overcome and adapt to things before a major. If people in LA had seen what, Genghis's, crazy Magneto and Viscant, his Wesker and all these things, if we had seen those at Evo instead of a couple of months ago, that might have been bad for the LA players' chances. Or, if we hadn't seen players from who knows where bringing up who knows what technology.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would have been bad.
Yeah.
But yeah, as far as the numbers go, I mean, you have to remember that SoCal is gigantic.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
it's literally a bigger area than some states. So we have players coming from San Diego to Ventura, and those are about 3.5 hours apart. And so we all have these people coming. Yeah, it's a big place. So
yeah, and I'm pretty sure there's a bunch of other local communities, and every city has always their local community, and some are more recognized than others. But of course,
yeah,
everyone has, whether it be small or big. But communities have to just be more than just a group of friends playing with each other, because the dynamic of things, it helps everyone. I mean, I'm going to use the word economy, just economically grow with one another. And I was actually very pleased to see that these 11 names were there, because it just shows something that hopefully everybody can adapt and do the same, so that it makes things more better and exciting.
Yeah, I would love to see for more scenes to have streaming events or that kind of thing, because I know that there are very strong players all over the country. I've been able to travel around a lot this year and see people all over the continent, and there are strong players everywhere. And it's kind of too bad that most people don't get to see them very often.
Yeah.
And because then when they do see them, they don't expect much. They sleep on them. They don't. They're not looking for them to do anything cool. But
it's like,
no, in reality, they're strong and they should be represented more.
Yeah, and as a fighting game community, if everybody helped everyone and gave attention to everybody, and we grew and slowly grew and grew, which we have been in the past decade. But now, because of technology, I mean, everybody can post YouTube. Everybody can stream in your you can stream in your basement if you really wanted to with free. Everything is free programs, and exposure is the best. It's not only writing on forum posts anymore. You can actually make videos of it.
Right.
And I want to move on to the new release, or the announcement specifically, more of a professional discussion on Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3. I wanted to begin this by explaining to people, if they don't know what it is, the 80-20 rule, also called the Pareto rule. It's like this. It's where 80% of your customers and sales, 80% of your sales come from 20% of your customers. And I'll give a store example of HMV. 80% of their sales come from 20% of their music composers. And they noticed that, and basically they transferred on and they started expanding. And if you go to an HMV now, it's not just music anymore. It's graphic novels, it's games, it's movies, and they've expanded. And Capcom, with their sales and with their games, they originally provided strictly, and I do believe they provide for that 20% of customers, because as people who play the game consistently, we will rebuy and rebuy and rebuy because of the love for the game, etc., etc. As an example, from Street Fighter 4, it was reported that they had over 2 million sales. When they released Super Street Fighter 4, even though they decreased the price, it went to 1.6 million copies. It was a 20% decrease. And then when they went to Arcade Edition, they had 1 million sales, and then they had 300,000, it was recorded, of DLC packages. So it continues to go down and down and down, but that portion of consistent buyers are still purchasing the game, and that is in their niche of their 20%. And I wanted to get kind of your opinion on that as well. And if you actually think that, what is Ultimate too soon, or is it questionable? Because a lot of people are starting to talk about it more and more as it continues on.
Well, as far as the economics go, I don't know if we hardcore players make up anything like 20%. I'd be pretty surprised, frankly, if we made up anything like even approximating that.
Yeah.
I tend to think that we're much, much smaller. I mean, look how happy we are about Evo, with something like 3,000 competitors.
Hmm.
3,000 versus even the 1.3 million you were talking about is just not even on the radar.
Yeah, yeah,
And even if you were to look at, I believe Evo released the numbers of like 2 million people who watched something like that. That's great. I mean, those are worldwide numbers. Keep in mind, but I don't know how many of those people really represent the hardcore who will buy games over and over again.
yeah,
So I think that you know, Capcom has to think about that kind of stuff, and I know that they are, and I think you see that in things like how they balance. For example, in Arcade Edition, going from Super to Arcade Edition, all they really needed to do was just slightly tweak, a few of the characters who were at the bottom. The top tier was fine. There was maybe like one or two issues spread out over 10 characters. They could have left almost everybody alone and just buffed up the lower characters, but you can't do that if you're trying to cater to what they think their market is. Like if it was the hardcore that they're really concerned about, if it was us, they would just rebalance those few characters and just release it, and everybody who was playing, all the characters at the top would have the same character, and we'd be fine with that because
yeah.
we don't really care.
Yeah, they
But
would just grab like a recording device and bring it to one of your tournaments and just be like, "Hey, what do you want?"
yeah, right. But they can't do that. They have to have new changes to everybody because that's what's going to sell. You're not going to be able to sell to somebody who isn't really into the game the same exact characters. They're going to need, from their perspective, something to have changed,
Yeah,
even if that would make the balance worse. And that's in fact what we see, that the balance is worse. Between vanilla and super, it had gotten to this point where it was a super super balanced game, definitely one of the most balanced Street Fighter games ever.
hmm
But you can't release that game if it's just slight balances changes again. It's unfortunate, but
yeah, it would be
that's the way that
questionable. Yeah,
it works. So I mean, as far as the market share goes that we have, I think it's like really super small. I hope that it increases in the future, and I think that with Evo and with the other events that we stream now, I think that it will grow just because I feel like we'll publicize what we're doing well enough that
hmm
there will be new fans who will care about that kind of thing. But I don't think that we'll ever get to something to some percentage that Capcom really needs to just design games around us. Unfortunately, I'd love that to be the case. I don't think
yeah,
it will.
but it's extremely difficult for that to actually even be possible.
Yeah, I think it will be super difficult. Um, and then as
Because
far as whether it's coming out too early, Ultimate,
mhm,
uh, you know, I kind of do think it is, frankly.
yeah,
Um, there's a lot of technology left to be built in regular Marvel 3.
hmm
We saw at Evo that there was like significant changes in how people in the top 32 addressed Phoenix. Snapping her in so that she only had level 2 X Factor rather than level 3 was kind of an interesting thing. Even some Phoenix players had crazy new stuff like Death Wish starting Phoenix and opening rounds with supers, and
oh yes,
playing is
yes,
a very meter heavy character, which is just a completely different take. And there were a couple of people as well who put her in second place, so that they built 5 meters with their first character and then had Phoenix on the second, and Hagar assist or Tron
yeah.
assist or whatever backing her up. So there are all these new experiments that people are still trying with the game. I feel like there's a lot of changes left to be made, and unfortunately, the the new version Ultimate is going to have to be finalized before all of our technology that we come up with is going to settle. Like we're still going to be coming up with new stuff when they have to have already finalized Ultimate.
Yeah,
And I don't know whether they have already. I have no idea. I hope that they haven't. I hope that they're still working on it.
the thing is they say that the characters are pretty much not complete, but they're just making sure the balance is, in case of any glitches or any infinites they want to take out. But one thing is, some people are saying, "Oh, it's not being released until November. It's gonna be 9 months."
Yeah.
But they've announced it, and basically it only took them. Now it's been 6 months since Marvel. It's only took them 6 months to say we've done it already. We've already got 10 more characters in line for the game. And
Well, I mean that doesn't really surprise me. That they would announce it like 6 months later is not that big a deal. Like, um, Capcom. This is what Capcom always did in
Mhm.
the 90s. Right? Like, think about how frequently the Street Fighter 2s came out, and the period of time between the alphas and the Street Fighter 3s
yeah, that's right.
was not great.
They
And
have
same with the Versus series as well. But now I feel like a lot of people either don't remember that period or are kind of past it in what they want to see.
Yeah, there was about 5 Street Fighter 2s on the Super Nintendo. Before Marvel vs. Capcom 1, there was X-Men vs. Street Fighter, Marvel Superheroes, there was X-Men Children of the Atom, there was Marvel Superheroes versus Street Fighter, then there was Marvel vs. Capcom 1. Then they took a 10-year gap with Marvel vs. Capcom 2, but you know what it was? It's almost like this. Before, you couldn't even, there was no communication between companies and customers. Now with technology, it's directly D2C, which is directly to customers, and everybody can go on the Capcom community forums. They can complain or compliment or anything you want. And the fact that, as a consumer, I personally don't like continuing to spend. Like, I would want the most perfect product, but because I have the ability to complain, everybody will, because it's free and you can try to get what you want. And it's just accessible and naturally, if you can, a lot of people trigger that, and then it happens. But
that doesn't surprise me that people would complain. But as far as, again, like whether they're releasing it too early, it doesn't surprise me.
Mm-hmm.
But I do wish we had more time. Like, one of my favorite things about games like Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo, or Marvel vs. Capcom 2, or Capcom vs. SNK 2, or Third Strike as well. These are games that we've had a lot of time with, and I love that we've figured those games out. I think that's awesome, because when people come up with new stuff in fighting games, the way I think of it is that somebody's found a new rule in a strategy game.
Yeah.
Like, these are all rules, and we're finding the rules slowly finding the rules, and at some point, there's no more rules. So now it's just about the strategy and the mind games, and I think that's awesome. That's one of the reasons that I love Super Turbo, because we know everything, and yet it's still super deep and awesome. And I wish that the new games would get to that point. Obviously it takes a long time for that to happen, and I'm down with balance changes on the way, but I feel like we're not yet at the point in Marvel 3 where we can really say that for sure.
Yeah, I agree with that.
On the other hand, I haven't played Marvel 2 in probably 3 months.
Marvel 2 or Marvel 3?
I'm sorry, Marvel 3 I haven't played in about 3 months.
You haven't played? Oh, okay.
And that's because I don't like it as a tournament game. I love watching it. I think it's really fun. I don't think it's a great competitive game right now. And I was kind of hoping either for balance updates at some point, or for the technology that people come up with to, like, kind of soften how ridiculous it is.
Yeah.
But that hasn't happened. Like, most of the technology has actually been to make it crazier. So I'm okay from that perspective, of a new balance changes coming out. But again, I do wish that we'd had a little bit more time to figure things out for ourselves.
Yeah. No, well, here's one thing. I will agree with you that I don't think Marvel vs. Capcom 3 is a good tournament game. The fact that it's very, very easy to do difficult things now. Obviously, if I'm saying something's difficult, how is it easy to do that? Well, what I mean is it's not hard to pull off instant deaths anymore. It's just the mechanics of the game have really been built around acquiring the beginners and more casual players so that everybody can play on the same level. And Capcom has even admitted, they're like, we want to get the casual players and the tournament players. We don't want there to be an invisible wall. We just want everybody to play equally. So what are we going to do? We'll create chances of coming back, quote, quote, X factor. We'll do this and that. We'll change it. And we're going to purposely make the game broken, which they've admitted multiple times in every game they make, which it's documented. And this is what happens. And then, well, what turns out from that is everybody complains, and then they come out with a balance change to kind of not seem like heroes or not pointing a finger at them, but they'll come out with a better balance change similar to Street Fighter 4 to Super Street Fighter 4. And like Marvel vs. Capcom 3 to Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3, because I'll say two specific changes that I've seen in the constant plays, which it's not guaranteed because Ultimate's not out yet, but with Hager and Tron, their assists. No assists are going to be instant anymore. Everyone's assist is going to be at risk. And Tron, she's not invincible in her incoming anymore. She gets hit on her way in.
Right.
And Haggard is not a hard knockdown anymore. If you didn't do a quick body press immediately, or you didn't do his rapid punches, you can't just gunshot them down and pick them up with Dr. Doom or Dante or Wesker anymore. And it makes offense much more greater. And the fact that obviously the game is, I mean, every combo does over half, well, well, I mean, 1/3 of a person's life at the easiest combo. You know, everything always leaves up to question and then tweaks and all that stuff. But
Yeah, if there's anything that shows how small of a market share we hardcore players have, it's the existence of these crazy comeback mechanics. Because none of
yeah,
us like it. I don't think I've ever met anybody who likes ultras or rage mode in Tekken or X Factor in Marvel 3. No, it's stupid, right? Like
yeah,
it's anti-strategic. It literally it's a negative for doing well. Like
yeah,
here, like it's a negative consequence for doing well, and that's stupid from a strategic perspective. But for casual players, it's cool. Like that means that they don't have to have as much invested in a game to do as well as somebody else. And obviously, if a casual player were to come up against Justin Wong or something, they would get blown up. But as far as they and their friends go when they're messing around, that existence of something like X Factor and Ultras means that even if they're getting beat up, they still have a chance. So they like it. We hate it, but
yeah.
hey,
That's
they're
right.
still in.
And you know what? The majority will rule, and that's just how it is. And
Yeah. And by the way, I don't know whether you've heard, but Street Fighter Cross Tekken actually won't have a comeback mechanic. So
that is what I heard.
yeah, that's a nice little bit of info.
This is what I heard Seth Killian also say. He said you're allowed to use a couple of bars to counter your opponent, like in Mortal Kombat, you have your armor break, but instead of in Mortal Kombat when you smack them away and you waste 2 meters, you can't combo off that. Capcom Seth Killian said you can actually combo after a counter hit while you're blocking as a chain, and I was like, what?
Wait, what?
I'm gonna make sure I get the video sound of it. Basically, when he was
Okay.
basically it's like this, Mortal Kombat, you're blocking, you just gotta press. If you're being hit in a combo, you
Right.
can press forward and block, and then you'll smack
Right.
your opponent away to armor break them.
Right.
Mortal Kombat, you can't combo off it, but in Street Fighter Vs. Tekken, which might happen, is you can do that, and you can actually do something after it to your opponent.
Are you talking about alpha counter?
Yeah,
I mean, like when if somebody presses a button and you block it, you can counter through it, right? That's what you mean?
by using 2 bars, and you can smack them out of it.
Right. Yeah. It's not breaking a combo. It's just breaking the block string.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I mean, assuming that it's the same as the build that I played at E3. Yeah. You can if somebody presses a button and you block it, you can then break through it and combo them if they're still in recovery of that move. But if they instead press a move that recovers quickly and you try to like alpha counter it, then they'll recover in time and you'll come out with your super slow alpha counter that's very punishable on block, and then they can punish you.
Oh, okay. See,
So
that makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah, so at least in how the build was when I played it, it was actually not that bad. It was
Okay,
fine.
see, that's good. And good that you brought up Street Fighter vs. Tekken, because now, anywhere you go now, people are saying, well, should I even buy Street Fighter vs. Tekken, or should I wait for Ultimate Street Fighter vs. Tekken in 5 months to hear an announcement? Because, I mean, this is what everything kind of comes down to. It's like, even myself, I'm thinking, should I just wait maybe 3 months to just see what happens, see if they're going to say something about this? Because there are so many more fighting games coming out, and whether it be King of Fighters or Tekken Tag 2, or and with Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3, and then I know Street Fighter vs. Tekken's coming out in February, but it's like, it's up to question with that, and
Yeah, I see what you mean. I don't know. Like, obviously I'm gonna buy it. I have no choice. That's what I do.
yeah,
But I can't imagine that many people will like really go through that calculus in their head. As far even casual fans, like I can imagine people buying Cross Tekken and then not buying Cross Tekken like rebalanced. That makes sense to me,
Yeah.
but I'm not. I don't know. It would surprise me if people waited for the rebalanced version.
yeah, because casuals don't really care what version it is; they're just playing with their friends, and
Yeah, like here's the
Yeah.
thing. If you're a casual player, I actually just had this conversation with somebody recently. If you're a casual player, you don't really care that much whether Phoenix gets rebalanced a little bit or Wolverine gets rebalanced or whether Shinko gets buffed a little bit in Marvel 3. That's not that's not super important to you because you're
Yeah.
not playing the game at the level where those characters are either really good or really bad.
Yeah, that's
Right?
right. That's right.
At the lower levels of this game, like earlier on, it seemed super well balanced. It still seems pretty well balanced, but it seemed even more balanced at the start when we really hadn't figured stuff out yet. And I think that that's where casual players are. They're at this level where they can anything goes kind of thing.
Yeah, I always say, I'm like, if you're playing T-Hawk in casual play, you're gonna think he's broken, but because his standing heavy, like if you casual play is different from tournament play, and if you go to T-Hawk in tournament, you don't really see him as much.
Right.
But when you don't know how to really dodge something, you're getting kicked in the face from halfway across the screen, doing 120 damage. You're like, whoa, what's going on? And it's a completely different game.
It's definitely a different game, and people play it for different reasons too. I play it at least because I like it from a strategy perspective, and I don't care about the characters. But I know that there are lots of people who play it less seriously who play it because they like one of the characters, they like a few of the characters, or they just like even the backgrounds or the graphics. There are all these reasons that are all legitimate to like a game, but they're not the ones that I care about. But these are reasons why people play the game casually, and that's cool. But they don't have that much to do with the actual balance of tiers at high level play.
Yeah, that's right.
So yeah, it wouldn't surprise me, and the numbers that you quoted earlier kind of make sense to me. That's as far as Street Fighter 4 getting less sales each time.
Yeah.
They put out a new one, but that's why Capcom in Ultimate Marvel 3 is going to be coming out with 1 billion more characters because they want people to buy the game for that. If they're not excuse me, if they're not going to buy the game because of balance changes, they're going to buy the game because there are these new stages and new characters, and that's all really cool.
Yeah, all different characters from very different franchises.
Yeah, very, very different characters. And I think that's cool. I think that definitely makes sense from a marketing perspective. Like you can see the different take between them and NetherRealm with Mortal Kombat 9, who are releasing these characters via DLC.
Yeah.
And guy I was talking with recently said that he likes DLC more as a casual player because then he can pick which characters to download.
That's right.
And at first I was like, wow, like that blows my mind. You would not buy one of these characters? Like, as a competitive player, I feel like I have to buy all the characters.
Yeah, because you got to know what they do, how they feel like, what they play like.
Yeah.
And
it totally blew my mind.
You know what I got to give, though? I got to give Mortal Kombat my props for putting Freddy Krueger in.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just like, oh my, I hate that guy my whole childhood, watching him, in those movies. I'm not going to say what he does. You can go watch the movies and see what he does, but now I want to go and kill him, and I want to play him, And that's the great, it was a good cameo he's going to get in that game.
Yeah, I think it's really cool. And it's cool because it looks like he has fun gameplay and potentially good gameplay.
Yeah.
And also he'll bring in casual players, so they got this balance going on.
Now we're hopefully we see the guy from Scream coming in there, running around with his knife. I wanted to get onto something real quick. Just a short discussion on, I'm always saying, like, because I do short videos or whatever, but like StarCraft 2 does not have, fighting game community, we can do even better than how StarCraft does their castings and the community involvement, because I love StarCraft, and
yeah, me too.
I'm watching Husky all the time, and this basically is a guy who does a lot of commentary on StarCraft, and their media impact they have is huge.
Yeah. Definitely.
And the thing is, they have a lot more people doing it, and their events are even bigger. Their tournaments are even bigger. They have their own EVO wherever they do it. And fighting game community, we do it, but we also don't do it. And we can be just as good as them. And if not, we could be even better. And I wanted to get kind of your take on this, because a lot of people are recognizing you and James Chen as almost like the Husky in HD. And that's like my perspective, because when I hear you guys talk, when I hear you guys talk, it's much different than hearing another stream in X region and anywhere in the world. Mm-hmm. And there's a big range, and because you guys, now that you guys went to EVO, a lot more people know who you are, and they're gonna want to see you guys talk, or it appeals to a different crowd, et cetera, and you go to X tournament, and in the East Coast they have this person there, and they have these people here, but if we all were to kind of it always connect in a sense, our numbers and our reviewers can continue to grow, and grow. And yeah, like I said, I want to see what was your opinion on that, because I've heard you watching your stream. You have mentioned StarCraft actually a lot of times
Yeah.
in your commentary.
Yeah, I mean, I like StarCraft a lot. I play it casually. I'm not good at the game, but I play it casually. And I watch a lot of the streams, and I watch a lot of the replays on YouTube too. So it's something that I really like. Um, that said, I feel like we have better games as far as viewers go. I got to be honest.
Yeah,
I feel like the length of a Street Fighter set is at most 10 to 15 minutes if it's like CVS2 will in 2 out of 3 will be like that one.
yeah,
And at the shorter end, ST can be 2 minutes, can be 3 minutes. So
yeah,
I feel like we have like a great little like time chunk. I think that's perfectly done. I also think that we have better moments because a single decision or two decisions can mean a round just like that, and so each individual thing that happens is extremely important.
yeah.
Uh,
And
and whereas StarCraft is a longer game that has more options and maybe the strategy is a little bit deeper. We have a faster game with plenty of depth in the strategy as well, but it's faster and things happen in kind of a crazier format. Like I feel like that's a significant reason why our crowds get extremely hyped
yeah,
at our tournaments. They go nuts because if one thing happens, that's it. Like somebody wins or loses a
yeah.
round.
And
Literally.
what we have that we could utilize better is that our players aren't sitting in soundproof booths.
And there's also that. Yeah, I feel like that's really cool. I
Yeah,
love that. I love the player crowd interaction. We saw that at Evo, right, with Punko like
yeah,
throwing off his belt and throwing off his jacket and chugging whatever that was that he chugged before his match.
oh yeah,
That was awesome.
before Daigo, yeah,
Before Daigo. Yeah, that was so cool. I love that kind of stuff. And I feel like our scene and our game really lend themselves to being watched and to bringing in more interest. As far as Evo goes versus StarCraft events, according to Evo's numbers, the 2 million plus that individual connections that we got was the most of any competitive video gaming event. I don't know whether that's true or not. That was the claim. So even if it's not
yeah,
true, the point is that we can do really well.
yeah.
And
That's right.
we've already showed that we can get a ton of people watching. We can get a lot of interest, and I think that that'll continue to grow in the future. I mean, much love to StarCraft. I really like it, and like I said, I play it and I watch it a lot. But I feel like we have games that lend themselves better to being watched.
Yeah, that's right.
You can see all the action on screen at all times. There's no problem with an observer missing something. Um, and I feel like that really lends itself to being watched. It's kind of interesting from a commentary perspective too. So like I watch StarCraft in large part because I like the commentators a lot,
Hmm.
and it's useful for me to kind of study what they do and like how they react to situations and what they do with their voice and stuff.
Yeah, that's right.
So
That's right.
yeah, I always check that out. But it's kind of a different style of commentary. Like they have to describe what's going on a lot more than we do.
Yeah,
If a Street Fighter commentator is just describing what's going on, crouching medium kick, here's the throw, nice jump.
like a play-by-play. It's not really that
Yeah, then
interesting.
that sucks, right? Like, who
Yeah.
cares? Like, I can see what's going on. Thank you very much. But in StarCraft, you kind of do have to do that because maybe somebody's not, you know, you probably are going to miss some of the action because the screen only gets to see a certain thing
Yeah,
at a time. So you do have to do that stuff a lot. They have to talk about strategy a lot too, but I feel like what we do is more on commentating what the strategy is and what the options are at the time and all these things. It's also a much faster style of commentary. We don't get the time at the beginning of a match to like just talk, like
oh yeah, when they're mining in the beginning.
yeah, when they're
for 5
mining,
minutes.
right?
Yeah.
And I'm kind of jealous of that. Like I wish as a commentator that I had that time, but
You
I
get
don't.
you get about 3 seconds before some Wolverine gets to slide into an X Factor.
Right. Yeah. And so that means that we miss a lot of things too, which is unfortunate. In StarCraft, except for the most hectic times, they have time to describe what's happening.
Yeah.
Describe the options and the strategy and what's going on.
Yeah.
But we don't. We have to do this all the time. Like all the time, James and I are talking about stuff, or not just James, but Ski and Seth and whoever else is commentating. We start talking about something, and then we just have to stop because something else bigger has happened.
Yeah,
And
that's
we
right.
just have to
That's right.
get whatever the idea was and talk about what's going on now because we don't have the time. So it's very different commentary.
Yeah, much more fast paced.
Yeah, and again, I feel like that lends itself to better viewership.
Yeah.
I hope that we'll get there in the future. I don't think that we're there yet, but
No,
yeah.
we're I think we're still in our baby phase because everybody's starting to explode with their own kind of, streams and abilities to interact with everyone, and we're still growing, and yeah, we're not far from it, but it's gonna take work to get there.
Yeah, definitely, and I look forward to working on it. Like hopefully I can stay involved and keep going.
Yeah, I wanted to get into that. That leads into a couple of my subscribers. They have some questions they want to ask you.
Okay.
Basically, let me get to them. Let me checking them right now. Okay, so the first one is from AfroSun Online. He says, "Hey David, how do you balance your career as a lawyer and your attendance to gaming tournaments? As a lawyer, shouldn't you be buried with paperwork?"
Well, luckily I own my own practice, my own law practice, and that means that I can set my own hours and take on as much business as I want or don't want. So I can be busy if I want to, if there's nothing else going on, or I cannot be busy if there are a lot of tournaments going on, or if some new game has come out.
So
And
everyone's up to your
that's
choosing.
Yeah, it's totally up to me, which is a great situation. And at the same time, I feel like I need to go to tournaments. Because not just because they're fun, and obviously I love going and hanging out with people and watching games, but commentary is not it's not a job for me per se, but it is very helpful with my real job. Um, and that is to say that most of the clients that I've gotten have either known me already from the video game community or have heard about me through streaming.
Oh, yep. So it's an own
Well,
mark.
yeah, or not necessarily streaming, but the articles that I put on shoryuken.com, or that kind of thing. Something that I do within the video game community. That's how they've heard about me, because I haven't put out any traditional kind of advertising. So that's
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 right.
what I've been doing.
So
And
it's
so I need to go. Basically, I need to go
yeah,
to streams. I need to write articles because that's how I get clients.
yeah,
If
and
I mention on stream that I'm a lawyer, if like literally one out of every 50,000 viewers feels like he or she needs legal work, then that's great. That's an awesome ratio for me. You
yeah.
know, if one out of 50,000 of the 2 million people who watch gets back to me, that's fantastic. I have more work than I need.
Hmm.
That's perfect. So,
Yeah,
yeah, that's
even one person
even
is
one's awesome. Yeah. Oh yeah. If two people, if five people out of those 2 million get back to me, then that's amazing. That's totally made it worthwhile. So that's in part where I go to streaming or why I go to events. Again, it's also because I love doing it and I play video games and I'm a total nerd about it. But there's
it's
definitely
all
that
it's all
business
good.
side.
It's all good. It
Yeah.
it's honestly it's almost like a blessing that they kind of interact with each other and it complements your work lifestyle.
Well, I mean, it's no accident. Like that's the reason. One of the reasons that I thought that I could open my own practice is because I had this situation going on where I could advertise myself easily enough. So
Okay.
that was a big
Um,
factor in my decision to do my own thing.
for another question I have is, um, I have a question from I am too godlike, and it's about, do you prefer commentating on MVC3 or Super Street Fighter 4 AE and why?
I don't know that I prefer one or the other. They're just kind of different games. AE is a slower paced game, and we tend to get a little bit less hype, except for at the highest craziness levels. Except for like Punko going 4-0 on Daigo. We tend not to go crazy just because the game is slower, and you know each decision that somebody makes is a little bit less important because it's not like you're going to lose. Wolverine's not going to kill your character X Factor and then maybe kill the next one, right? Like that's probably not going to happen.
Yeah.
And Phoenix isn't going to come back and kill your entire team in 5 seconds. That's not going to happen either. So there's just less opportunity to go crazy. But on the other hand, I feel like the strategy is stronger in Arcade Edition. I feel like the better competitor tends to win more often, and it's kind of a little bit of a random game too. I don't want to claim that it's not because it kind of it is, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
um, but I think it's cool because we have a little bit more time to talk about what's going on. We have again, I feel like the strategy is stronger in that game, so we can talk about that. So it's just kind of whichever one you like as a viewer or as a commentator. I like doing both. Like I like going crazy on Marvel 3. Like that was awesome being in commentating the top 8 because there was plenty of opportunity to like yell and go nuts. That's awesome. But I also liked doing AE at Evo because I like talking about strategy and I like being able to talk about all the options and things that are going on. So yeah, I like both. I
Yeah,
think that they're both good.
it's. I think the only difference is that in Marvel, more possibilities will happen just because something can just shock happen. So,
Oh yeah, yeah.
yeah.
It's definitely more a faster pace, more crazy game. Like no doubt about it.
Let's see now. Oh, this one's kind of just like a joke. It's like,
All right.
can he buy your tie for $100 million? $100 million?
Can you buy my tie?
Your ties, yeah. I think I've seen people. I usually see people. They always compliment your ties whenever you're on stream because you're always dressed
Yeah.
very very classy.
Well, thanks. Yeah. I mean, I like looking presentable on. I also like looking like I'm an attorney on
Yeah.
stream. Like re-conversation from 2 minutes ago. Uh, so
Yeah, no. Of course, of
yeah,
course. You don't want to. I mean, honestly, it's like when your boss you go into an interview and he's like, "Oh, what's your name?" And then the next day he goes into your Facebook to see if you have a picture with like alcohol in your hand and whatever.
yeah,
And it's like
right.
it just doesn't. If you're gonna be one way, just stay that way.
Well, I also like that people have this idea of me that I always wear fancy clothes because at Evo, during when I was commentating, I did have fancy clothes and people went up to me a lot, and which is cool. Like, people introduced themselves and shook my hand and wanted to take pictures, and that's all awesome. But when later in the night, like commentary was done, I went upstairs and I put on shorts and some beat up T-shirt and sunglasses, and
Yeah.
nobody recognized me except for my friends, which is pretty cool too. So I can kind of like do both things, I guess.
Yeah. You could, your alternative look.
Yeah, like I can hide if I want to for whatever reason. So
Yeah, if the need comes.
yeah,
Let's see here. There's a bunch of other ones, stuff like, what makes a good community? What's the community like? I mean, I guess because obviously you're in the popular region, I guess, because
right.
there's some, I know specifically in, there's some regions near me and other areas where a lot of people would be like 10 people. Just because
Really? I mean,
we're much farther away from there's a lot of players, it's just, we're just
yeah.
far away.
Okay. Well, hey, so are we. Like I was saying with Wednesday Night Fights, people come from 2.5 hours in all directions to Wednesday Night Fights. So we're and in LA, it's such a car heavy city and it's so gigantic that we're all used to just driving everywhere. If something is half an hour away, like I consider that kind of close. Like that's not a drive. Like we'll drive half an hour. It's no big deal. I do that all the time. So if something takes 2 hours to drive, that's not a big deal either. Like I do that on the regular when I go to visit people. Friends that I have who live 2.5 hours away. That's not uncommon. So
Hmm.
we're used to driving this distance. It's not like we all live close together. In fact, in my little area of LA, in West LA, the only people who live here are me, James Chen, and Justin Wong, and Flo. And okay, that's a nice list, but and Ed Ma. That's a nice list, but it's 5 people,
Yeah.
right? Like, so if we want to get more people to play, either we have to drive somewhere between half an hour and 2 hours, or other people have to do that. So we're used to getting together. Like I often hear people have the excuse, hey, nobody lives in my area. Well, it depends on how you define your area.
Yeah,
Define our
exactly.
area as gigantic. If you live in Connecticut and you're not playing with the guys in New York City, we like that's what we're doing, right? Like that we're playing with guys in New York City from Connecticut.
That's right.
So or if you live 2 hours away from Chicago and you don't feel like you have a scene, yeah, you do. You're just not going there.
Yeah, it's just a little bit farther than it might be. And there's even, I know, there's sometimes a lot of people, they don't have the money to do it. But
That's true.
I always I always say I don't think it's that money is an issue because the only money you really have to spend is for your expenses being food and if you have to stay somewhere because there are buses where I'm from that I could take about $10. I can go to New York. And this is about 14-hour drive away if I'm taking a bus with the stops. There's like a $5 megabus you can take to Philadelphia. And I mean, like the distance we're saying, 10 hours is not a short drive, but it costs $10.
Yeah, wow, that's pretty impressive. I mean,
Yeah.
we don't have anything like that. Our public transportation system is terrible.
Yeah,
But
I've
still,
heard.
we carpool or whatever. We carpool all the time. Like to all these major events, it's not like we're all, driving individually. Even me and James, we live 10, 15 minutes away from Wednesday Night Fights. We're like the people who live the closest. We still carpool every time.
Hey, you might as well.
Yeah.
Well, basically, I wanted to give you the opportunity to kind of tell everybody how can they find you, how can they contact you, and where can they find you if they're even physically close by to you.
All right. You can find all of my contact information on my website, my law practice website, which is dpgatlaw.com. Got lots of contact stuff on there. If that's not your cup of tea, you can find me on shoryuken.com at Ultradavid. That's my name on there. You can come to many of the events that I'll be at, and I don't really have an itinerary set up yet for things that I'm going to in the near future because the Evo season is kind of over. I'm sorry, the tournament season is over for a couple of months. But yeah, I'm sure I'll be coming to new stuff soon enough. I don't know when Wednesday Night Fights is starting back up either, but hopefully that will be soon. So you can, contact me through one of those various areas. Oh, I'm also Ultradavid on YouTube, which is, I believe, how you found me.
Yep.
I'm also Ultradavid on Facebook. So there are these various ways. Yeah. And I welcome anybody to contact me about anything. I'm happy to talk. I actually do this a lot. People will ask me about games or about community or, actually quite a few people have gotten in touch with me who are attorneys themselves in the fighting game community or are in law school and they want to talk, and that's cool. I'm happy to talk with everybody.
Actually, yeah, I wanted to get. Actually, I was talking to another friend of mine, and basically, you could actually, by helping people understand. I mean, even for myself, like I have a general idea of what you do, but if people could actually hear you talk, you say you're an attorney. What general or specific things do you do if someone were to come to you? So what can you do for them?
Well, I run this practice that's mostly concentrated in entertainment and video game law, especially in the player community side of things. So most of the people I'm representing are in the video game community, mostly in fighting games, but not all. I'm starting to branch out now to other things. And what I do for them is kind of whatever they need. Some people they make clothing, and so there's like some artists' rights concerns in there for the stuff on the clothing. There's also contract stuff. I've registered trademarks for various groups who are starting stuff. Made licensing deals for copyright transfers and for rights deals and all that stuff. Excuse me. Work for hire agreements and just a ton of different people have gotten in touch with me. That's one of the cool things about what I've been doing is that it's not like one particular field of law. It's like the way I would define video game law is any kind of law as long as it deals with video games, right? Like it's just a catch-all. It's a catch-all. So that means that when people get in contact with me, they have lots of different things going on, and really, there's been almost no connector between the people I've represented, with the exception that they're mostly video game players themselves. So everything from businesses to musical artists to bands to writers to apparel companies, video game developers and publishers, like just a ton of different things.
You're not. Yeah, they don't just call you for a defense case or something like that. If they need, they call you for, almost anything involved in the technology section.
Yeah, I mean, they have called me for defense cases. That's come up, but most of the people I've worked with have not been in litigation, that is not in court, not sued by anybody, and not suing anybody else.
Okay.
It's been making deals is mostly what I've been doing. But they're both fun in different ways for me. So I
Yeah,
like
so
I like the ability to take on different things.
you've got variety.
Yeah,
That's
definitely
good.
got variety.
Okay, well, again, I really want to thank you for coming on, and I hope everything goes well. Anything expand, you get your future projects and all that works well. I hope
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, you're welcome,
Yeah, no,
man. Sorry?
I appreciate you. I appreciate you getting in contact with me. I'm always happy to talk with people.
Yeah, man, community work is. I mean, I want to do my best to put out as much things as I can with the actual time I have because of all
Yeah.
these jobs and projects, and I mean, hobbies, games, and all this stuff are my hobbies and my passion. But once I'm trying to put my because I also do certain like business perspective. I do databases for people. I'm more of like a finance guy, and I do projects and I do budgeting for people. And with my business perspective, I'm trying to talk to people and help people understand. Like, I even did one for fun explaining Capcom's financial statement and what a net income means.
Mm-hmm.
So that I'm trying to educate and get everybody to gain some knowledge. And so it's community work is I want to see it grow.
Yeah, for sure. And I could definitely tell that you had an economics or finance background. Talking about Pareto and stuff. I thought that was pretty
Yeah. But I hope everybody enjoyed listening. You could leave any questions in the comments if there's enough, or if I feel there's enough. I'm sure I could. We'll get a Q&A going just for posts only, and I'll reply to every single one of them. And yeah, so take care and thank you, David Graham, once again.
Thanks a lot for having me.
Thank you.